Greetings. Welcome to NASCAR America Debrief. I'm Nate Ryan here with Marty Snyder, Jeff Burton.
Starts the show with greetings.
Jeff always loves it when I say greetings.
Starts.
Also, they do that all the time in South Boston. Yeah. All right, so this is NASCAR.
Because he's smarter than everyone in the room here, I can tell you.
It's NASCAR America Debrief, which means we're taking your phone calls. If you were on the line for NASCAR America Motor Miles, great. Stay there. We'll get to you here on NASCAR America Debrief. Also taking your comments on YouTube. You're watching on YouTube, you see that little chat channel on the right-hand side. Just put comments in there. I'll be monitoring those. But let's start on the phone and go to Mike. Mike, welcome to NASCAR America Debrief.
Hey, thanks, guys. My question for you is, why all of a sudden is it such an issue that Chevrolet is finally racing with each other when Ford and Toyota have been doing it for the past 2 years?
Well, I don't think it's a negative issue. I think it just was a recognition by Chevrolet saying, look, if we're going to compete with these guys at Daytona and Talladega, we're going to have to do the same thing. So I don't, if somebody is pointing the finger at Chevrolet saying they shouldn't have done it, then they should have been pointing the finger at Toyota and Ford. Previously, I haven't heard a lot of that, but I think Chevrolet pretty much had to do that.
I mean, I think the question for me is,
why did it?
Yeah, well,
that's my question.
I think if you're looking for an issue, it's why did it take so long for Chevrolet to get to where Toyota and
that's
Ford
the
were?
point, is that
Chevy,
Chevy, as a manufacturer, tried to make this work for years. I mean, begging the organizations work together, and they were flat out told, no, we're not working together. And there's different things in the Chevy camp. There are different engine manufacturers, and it kind of it gets a little complex within the Chevy camp. That Toyota and Ford, they don't have that issue. So that was the real crux of the issue, but they finally got everybody to work together, and this was the result, Jeff.
Does that answer your question, Mike, in terms of the issue?
Yeah, pretty much. The only thing is you had an interview after the race, and there were a couple of Toyota drivers. I think it was either Toyota or Ford, I'm not sure. One of them was whining, you know, oh, we didn't have a chance. The Chevys were all bunched up.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think that was just a matter of fact. You know what I mean? I think that complaining about something and whining is maybe two different things. But, you know, when you are, Joey Logano, when you are the only Ford and everybody's coming at you, and prior to the race, Chevrolet was very vocal saying we are going to work together, and then you get beaten. You're not going to be happy about that. And I don't think you'd want, the competitors that you watch on Sunday to be happy. And I didn't really view Joey as whiny.
No, I didn't think it was either. But I wonder if what set this off, Jeff, if going back to Daytona, Hendrick Motorsports said, fine, you're not going to work with us. We'll work with another manufacturer. Yeah. And somebody at Chevrolet said, enough. That's it.
Well, I heard, actually, that Chevrolet wasn't aware of the deal at Daytona between Hendrick and Joe Gibbs Racing.
Nor were other Chevy teams aware.
And that seems to be the impetus. That was like the final breaking point of hey, we're going to work together. We're not going to have any more of this.
So for Hendrick Motorsports, it works.
But big picture, is this the start of the Chevy teams doing a better job of working together?
Yeah.
Is this the olive branch to say, okay, we have to work better together? Because I think in the industry, it's kind of known that the Chevy teams don't work as well together as some other teams do, and it's because of the things you mentioned, different engine manufacturers. There are a lot of things that go into it.
And you look up front at the end of that race, it just wasn't Hendrick. It was Hendrick. It was RCR. It was JTG. I mean, they were all the different teams were up there in the mix because they work together.
And I think that's why it stood out, it was so different from what we've accustomed to see at Daytona and Talladega. Let's go back to the phones. Thanks for that question, Mike. Appreciate it. We'll go to Andrew. Andrew, welcome to NASCAR America Debrief.
All right, I'm calling from NYC, New York City.
There you go.
New York represent.
I'm a longtime fan. I've just been very disappointed with what's going on. You know, it seems like every car is a clone of each other. The chassis are all the same, if I'm not correct. The fan base is losing. You look at Bristol, there was nobody in the stands.
Okay, all right. So your question, Andrew, is will there be more manufacturer relevance? Is that what you're seeking?
Well, no. My question is I wish we would go back to the year of yesteryear where each car was distinctive, not the same clone of each.
Listen. I know that you. I know that.
I'm an old timer. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's awesome, man. Our sport is built on people like you, and our sport has to have people like you, and we appreciate you. I want to tell you this: the information that all the cars are the same is one of the biggest misconceptions going on in the sport today. It is amazing how different these cars are. And if I could walk you into the garage and I could walk you to a Hendrick car and then walk you to a Ganassi car, then walk you to a Hendrick, they are so different from one another. There's the thought that these cars are all the same is nowhere near the truth. I know that's what the message has been, but if I showed you a Penske, if I could walk you and show you a Penske versus a Hendrick versus an RCR car, they are nowhere near the same. Now, what has happened is that, you know, all the Fords have Yates engines in them, you know, Roush Yates engines in them. All the Toyotas have the same Toyota's engine. That has happened. But as far as the chassis and the setups and all those things, they are nowhere near the same. And that's just the truth.
And I'll make two quick points.
Hold on,
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It just seems like every car looks the same. The body style is all the same. It's not like of yesteryear, like in the late 80s when I used to go to NASCAR races.
That's fair.
Every car was distinctive.
Number
Chevy
one,
was different than a Ford. A Ford was different than...
Right.
Okay, we got it, Andrew.
Yeah,
we got it.
And in 2021, they're going to have the next generation of cars coming out. They will be very distinctive to the manufacturers. That's one. But two, I'll go back to a comment Kevin Harvick made last week saying, just to prove how different the cars are, he said that during the Talladega race, he would be willing to work with a Toyota because their front bumpers were flat. He didn't like working with Chevrolets because their front bumpers come to a point very different than the Toyotas or the Fords. So that in itself shows you that the cars are shaped differently, because he said he can feel that difference in how they was pushed by a Chevrolet versus a Toyota or another Ford.
I think your point about the cars looking the same, I think that's valid. And you don't have the opportunity to look underneath the hood. So what you see is what you see.
Good point.
And there has to be, and you mentioned it, there's a tremendous effort in 2021 to get that brand identity back. Right. And I do think it's a long story how we got to where we are. It doesn't really matter, but it's got to go back. So a Ford is a Ford, a Chevy's a Chevy, a Toyota is a Toyota, and I hope more manufacturers can come in.
And the current car was a step toward that. I mean, there's a lot more brand identity now than there was with the so-called car of tomorrow, which was very generic. So baby steps, incremental changes. I think they're going to get there. 2021 will obviously be something very different. Let's go to a YouTube comment before we go back to the phones. We hit on this briefly during NASCAR America Motor Mouths. Chevy Roll 48, though, wants to know why they only applied single-car qualifying to tracks, or why didn't they only apply single-car qualifying to tracks 1.25 miles and longer? Why not keep group qualifying at the tracks where drafting isn't a factor?
I personally think, because exactly the last caller, you know, how he said, you know, all the cars look the same, I think that all qualifying should look the same. I don't think when you turn the TV on and you watch qualifying on Friday, then you turn the TV on next Friday, it looks completely different. Why is it different? And I think the less things we have to explain, the less rules that we have, the less changes that we have, I think that's easier to explain to the fans, and I think the fans can relate to it better. It's just a simple matter of keeping it simple. Right. Make it simple. Make it the same every week.
Are you
I concur.
I'm curious, your perspective as a pit reporter.
Yes.
Are you looking forward to single car qualifying?
You know, I mean, certainly group qualifying brought in a lot of different dynamics that were very exciting, but it just can't be done in this rule package. It can't be done. When there's drafting allowed, you cannot have group qualifying. It just can't work. So I don't think there's really any choice for NASCAR. And to me, this is the best, simplest alternative. To Jeff's point, keeping it simple, keeping one set of rules every weekend makes it a little bit easier. And I think that's easier.
Easier for you to interview guys.
Well, I mean, there's a lot more time to interview guys. And I think that's the big thing, is that you'll get to hear from more of your favorite drivers on pit road. So that is always a benefit, because when there's, 12 drivers cooped up in the car, you can't really get to them. So you'll be able to hear them as soon as they finish their laps.
You know what I'm going to miss?
What's that?
Is when you have to interview the guy that was 13.
It was always such
that, didn't you? You left
such a joyful.
What I always did is I got to the point where I sent them to Letard on the pit box. That's where I got to that point.
Y'all sent me down to do qualifying at New Hampshire.
Yeah.
And I had to interview the people that were the last one not to make it, and I'm like, I don't want to do this. They're not happy people.
That's a good point, Jeff.
You did it every week.
Thank you for thinking about that.
All right, thanks for that comment, Chevy Roll 48. Let's go back to the phones and talk to Mike from Virginia. Mike, you're on NASCAR America Debrief.
Hello, my name is Michael, and I have a question. I've noticed on the Vegas odds for Dover, Denny Hamlin wasn't on the list when you were talking on Motor Melds.
Interesting.
Take the field.
14-1 is what we're hearing,
Yeah.
Mike. 14-1.
I don't think Denny has won at Dover, has he?
I don't.
Yeah, I think.
I know it was not a good track for him for a long time, and a
Yeah.
track where he really tried to get a lot better.
Yeah. I think you like Chase Elliott at 12-1 much better, Mike. That would just.
I think that would be a good bet if I were you,
personal
Mike.
opinion.
That's a great call.
All right, let's go back to the phones and talk to Gage in Texas. Gage, welcome to NASCAR America Debrief.
Hey, Jeff Burton, Marty Snyder, and Nate Ryan. How are y'all?
How you doing, man?
Doing well.
I have a question for y'all. So, what NASCAR driver or IndyCar driver do you think will do the doubleheader in the future?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Good question, Gage.
That's a good one. This was actually a topic on the Dell Jr. Download with Will Power. They went through a whole list of people they thought might do it, but I'll let you chime in.
That's a hard one. I think Kyle Busch wants to do it.
He does. Yeah.
That was number one on their list.
Yeah.
But the question is, who has the right? So, I don't know. I think Kyle Busch is a good guess, but I don't. I think Kurt would do it again if he had the opportunity. And Kurt did well.
I think you would want the right car.
Yeah, Kurt did well.
That's a big key about the 500 is getting the right car. Like we were just talking before the show that Fernando Alonso this year may not be in a better situation than he was when he was with Andretti Autosport,
They got to fix the schedules, though, right?
Well,
They need to build in a little more
happen.
time. Yeah. that would certainly help.
If you want to make it happen.
Yeah.
But I think from the IndyCar side, Will Power was like, I would love to do it. I think the IndyCar guys are them moving to stock car world's a little bit of a bigger curveball in some ways because they don't drive those heavy cars. They're not used to that. It's a little bit different. And in IndyCar, honestly, I have always said, because I cover IndyCar full-time until we start NASCAR, a Cup driver really, and Tony Stewart has said this for years, you really need to go run at least a race before you run the Indy 500 if you want to be competitive. What Kurt Busch did was amazing. What Tony Stewart did back in the day was even more amazing. That he was able to pull off the finishes he did in those two races. It's hard to do.
I'll give you one more, Kyle. Kyle Busch is definitely on the list. And I know that when his contract extension got announced, that was one of the big questions. Did you get approval from Coach Joe if you want to run Indy? And he was kind of hinting around that maybe he did. The other Kyle Larson is on record as saying he absolutely wants to run the Indy 500. And obviously he has a team owner in Chip Ganassi who could do it. Now, will Chip Ganassi do that before Kyle Larson wins a championship? Or I doubt it.
I would tell you, like, I know the IndyCar drivers all the time ask me about, that'd be awesome. Joseph Newgarden would love to do it. The guy I would love to see do it is Alexander Rossi, because he's in this mode now where he's trying anything and everything. He did the Baja 1000 this year. He's did the Rolex IMSA now, and he's doing the endurance races over there. I would love to see him do that. So.
You just mentioned it. The hardest, I think it would be harder to go from driving an Indy car to a Cup car versus going from a Cup car to an Indy car.
It would feel so slow and heavy.
And in no way am I saying that Cup drivers are better drivers. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it's harder to go from a high grip, high downforce to a lower grip, lower downforce car.
Yeah.
It's heavier, all those kind of things. It's just a bigger transition. I'm not saying one driver's better than the other. I'm not getting into that argument. But it's just a bigger transition, in my opinion.
I mean, you don't even need to say it, Jeff. I mean, just look at the track record. I mean,
sure,
Juan Pablo Montoya, but then look at Dario and Patrick Carpentier and Jacques Villeneuve, Danica. There's been a lot of
it's just counterintuitive to so many things they learned.
You have to turn your brain around.
You do, and Dario's told me that a bunch of times. Just it's so heavy and to them clunky and doesn't turn, and it's like
doesn't stop.
Yeah, it doesn't stop, and they're like, wow, there's a lot to learn here.
All right, Mark is on the line. Mark from North Carolina. Welcome to NASCAR America Debrief.
Hello, gentlemen. I hope y'all are having a good evening.
Yeah,
we are.
I want to talk about the Talladega race. That new spoiler implicate they put on and removed the restrictor plates. Why don't they put that big spoiler on like they did and keep the cars bunched up at every track, to make the cars stay bunched up and rub and bump and move for a racing instead of getting out and just leading and run away with it.
All right, Mark. Well, sounds like a driver question, Jeff Burton.
Well, that was the intention of this year's rule package. If this year's rule package, is lower horsepower, higher drag, great big tall spoilers on them. That was the entire effort going into this year. Running the 2 mile, mile and a half racetracks was to put less power like you have at Talladega, more downforce, more drag like you had at Talladega into cars that are going to go run at Vegas, California, all those kind of racetracks. That was the entire intention of what was done in the offseason. Not to create pack racing, not to create the same type of racing that we saw at Talladega, but to create closer racing. And that was what all the effort. We saw it work at Texas. I can't really say it has worked all that great at the other racetracks, but at Texas it did work. I expect it's going to work at Charlotte. But that was the entire intention of this rules package going into this year.
And more potential changes coming in the All-Star race with the different things they're going to have. The cars are going to look a little weird, from what I understand, with holes in the hood. But could be interesting. Who knows? And maybe the future.
Something to watch. Marvin is on the line. Marvin, welcome to NASCAR America Debrief.
Hi, Nate. Hi, Jeff. And hello, Marty. You look good tonight, man.
What's happening, Marvin?
With Dover celebrating its 50th anniversary this year, what are some of your guys' favorite moments in those past 50 years of racing at the Monster Mile?
They're giving out golden Monster Mile trophies this year.
Oh, really?
How about that for the two?
Awesome.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
That's awesome.
I love going to Dover. I think it's puts on some fantastic racing.
Yeah.
I just recall last fall's race with all those wrecks at the end. I mean, you don't want to see that, but you never knew who was going to win that race. It was chaotic.
You got to.
I mean, I think I go back to Matt Kenseth. I think 3 years ago, and he and Kyle Larson
battle,
had an incredible battle.
Yep.
Larson elected not to bump him out of the way, and Kenseth, the veteran, respected him for that. I can remember when I think of Dover. That's what I think of. I think of people don't always, I think, recognize that it has close racing, and it has had some really spirited battles for the lead. I can remember, the Roush cars running. I think it was Edwards, Biffle, and Kenseth running 1, 2, 3 for the lead in the last 30 laps 10 years ago. I don't know if you feel that way about it, Jeff, but it seems like it gives you that kind of racing.
You don't remember me and Kenseth racing side by side for like?
How could I forget? 2006. 2006.
One of the best Dover races ever.
I wish we had a replay of you throwing your pin in the air.
That was your first win in a while.
Yeah, it was my first win, and I have that car. Richard Childress gave me that car.
Really?
Cool.
But post 9/11.
Yes.
Post 9/11.
How could I forget? That was
one of the most emotional days of the racetrack.
Oh my God! We went to Dover and pre-race. I started crying. I couldn't help it. The energy, the emotion, the grandstands were shaking. Like literally, you could hear. It was crazy. The USA chants. I mean, it was nuts. How crazy that and the unity.
It was great.
The unity was.
We were together.
Yes, we were, and just that moment will forever be to me the biggest moment ever at Dover.
Yep, Dale Jr. won that day.
Yeah.
Yes,
I didn't even remember that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and
man.
carried an American flag out of his car on the victory lap, and they handed out 140,000 American flags.
So cool
to the fans.
Such a great.
That was a scene, indeed.
By the way, I understand we have the replay of him throwing this. He was so aghast that you forgot his 20-lap battle.
I feel terrible.
Look how upset he was. Come on, man.
I know.
You don't remember that 2006 battle?
Oh man,
that was a good race. I remember it.
Okay, we've got a YouTube comment here. If I can find the person who left it. Here it is.
I remember when they went to concrete the first time and we did that Sunday practice. Remember that? And they had to paint the line on the wall, and like you guys couldn't see the track from the wall.
Yeah, and they
brought tires.
Sunday morning we practiced.
They put cones on the racetrack and made you guys run the top of the racetrack. Remember that?
I do remember that.
That was crazy.
Sunday morning practice, changing tires.
Well, they brought in like 1,800 new
Right.
tires and said, well, guess what? We're changing the tire because y'all were blowing tires left and right
Yeah, it
in
was
practice.
not going to be good.
All right, quick YouTube comment from Christian29D wants to know, Fernando Alonso on NASCAR road courses. That's it. That's the question.
Listen, I know he wants to run the Daytona 500. Mm-hmm. He would love to run the Daytona 500 and talking to him, but I don't, will it ever happen? I mean, he like Alexander Rossi is in this quest of I'm going to do everything I can do and see what happens.
Yeah.
So if he can politic to find a ride for the Daytona 500, he's in.
I would love to see him. I'd love to see him in the race. Daytona
He's a talent.
500, a road course race, any race. I'd love to.
Yeah.
I think one of the best things for any kind of racing is when other racers come and do it because it exposes their fan base to that sport, or that division rather. So I think it would be great.
And I go back to what Alan Gustafson said, working with him when they did the test with Jimmy Johnson and Jimmy ran the F1 car. He said he's never met a driver in his life that processed information faster than Fernando Alonso. And he only had one question. He got in the car. He goes, the gears are 1, 2, 3, 4. And he said, that's it. He goes, okay.
All right.
And that's the only question he had.
I got it from here.
Yeah,
from here.
He does.
All right, we got a couple more calls on NASCAR America Debrief.
Yeah.
Let's go to Roscoe on the line in Montana. Roscoe, welcome to NASCAR America Debrief.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I've got a suggestion and I guess a question along with it is, why don't they finish the Cup races and the lower series races, truck races, with no yellow flag? Why don't we just do like they do in sprint car racing, where we just keep going and going until that race is finished under green along with the checker?
Okay, so you're advocating unlimited restarts, green, white, checkered. It's like, and even if the yellow flies in the white flag lap, you want to keep going. The race has to end under green, in other words, is what you're advocating.
That's correct, and it's done in a lot of Action X World of Outlaws sprint car owners.
Yeah, well,
Gotcha.
and there, obviously there are no fuel issues, and NASCAR things are calculated to a fairly close extent.
Yeah, there are a lot of reasons. The fuel is a reason. These are longer races by the very nature of a Cup race versus a sprint car race. A sprint car race is last minutes. This one lasts hours. Eventually it's got to end. At restrictor plate races, we've seen in the ARCA series where they had a rule where it would just keep going.
Yeah.
You keep going until you get it, and they had caution after caution after caution. I'm not. Your idea is not wrong. Trust me. There has been a lot of rules been put in place over the years to try to give the fans a checkered flag finish rather than a caution. There's been a lot of rules for that. But at some point the race has to end, and with fuel mileage in a Cup race and all those kind of things, it's just different than in a shorter race.
To that extent, what was it? It was last year, Daytona, ARCA. Didn't they run like an hour plus extra trying to get the finish? Because they had the unlimited overtime rule.
Yeah.
And then they got rid of that this year. They said, we can't do that again.
Yeah.
We've got to limit it to 3.
We appreciate that phone call, Roscoe. We've got one more, and it's Gary on the line from Virginia. Gary, welcome to NASCAR America Debrief.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Hope you're having a great evening. My question or my observation is this. I've been a NASCAR fan since my first race was in 1988 at Richmond. I live approximately 3 miles from it, and I haven't missed a race since. But here's my question. The lucky dog, or however you want to call it, or the wave around cars, why doesn't NASCAR get rid of that and go back to the lead lap cars to the outside and the lap cars to the inside? I think that would make a better race. At least I enjoyed it. I just wanted your thoughts on that.
So let's spend a little bit of time talking about this. Okay, there's a free pass, and where you're the first car lap down, you get to get back on the lead lap, and then there's also the wave around, where the cars that are behind the pace car but in front of the leader, they go around the pace car. It's two different things. So the reason that they give the car a lap, right, give his lap back if he's the first car lap down, is because when they went to the rule that you can no longer race back to the start-finish line under caution, that took away the opportunity to get your lap back. So it used to be we would race the leader back to try to get your lap back.
Which was dangerous.
Which created an issue. So they said, you know what? You no longer have that opportunity, so we're going to let the first car lap down. We're going to let him get back in the lead lap because they took away that opportunity from you with that rule. So that's why that rule is there. When you think about it like that, it makes that rule make a lot of sense. As far as double wide restarts with the lap cars on the bottom, that did create a lot of chaos, let's call it. I personally would rather see the first place car and the second place car racing each other than the first place car and the 14th place car. And when you put all the lap cars lined up on the bottom, that's what you end up seeing. So I think the quality of race is better by having the leaders in the front versus having the lap car in the front. But that's just my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, I just remember even when you were racing in Richmond and the lap cars were to the inside. I don't know.
Yep.
It just, to me, I was a big Rusty Wallace fan, and he had to fight his way back if he was on a lap down or whatever, and we was actually, enjoying that. And I'm not saying the NASCAR is wrong, because I think they've done a heck of a job over the last couple of years trying to make it more exciting for the fans. I mean, I'm a diehard NASCAR fan, and that's just the way it's going to be. But it was just my opinion.
Let me interrupt you 1 second. So, if you're a let's say you're a Kevin Harvick fan today, and he is trying to get back in the lead lap, you still get to watch him race those other guys be the first car lap down. And in many cases, that is.
And in many cases, there's more cars
It's become a
involved.
race within a race. In a way.
So I hear what you're saying, and I will say this: TV can't always show that race. TV can't always show the race for the first car lap down. But that is an incredible race, watching those guys trying to be the first car lap down.
It's a dogfight.
Yes, when trying to be there before the caution comes out.
Right. There's a lot of good elements. Real quick.
I'm sorry. I have one other thing is, where do they determine the length of a track? Somebody told me it's 10 foot from the outside wall or 10 foot from the inside line. Where exactly do they determine the length of a track?
It's like, isn't it like 3 feet from the wall? There's a distance.
Yeah, there's a distance. I don't have it in front of me, Gary, but there is a distance from the outside wall. It might be 10 feet.
And where did that come into play?
Texas.
Bristol, I think, right?
No, Texas and Kentucky, when they reconfigured 1 and 2.
Yes.
We didn't know, and then the speeds were faster, but it was really because it was no longer a mile and a half; it was a mile .43 or something like that.
Right.
There was something. The line.
What happened was it was still a mile and a half.
Yeah.
But because they were running the bottom lane, and the bottom lane got shorter because of the way they reconfigured the track, the average speed was faster.
That's right.
Yeah, that's what happened.
I think that was Texas.
Yeah,
you're right.
Texas and Kentucky. Because they did the same exact thing to both racetracks. They flattened 1 and 2 and left 3 and 4.
All right.
Maybe it's the other way. Anyway.
Great call, Gary. Great questions. Appreciate everybody's phone calls today, all your YouTube comments. Thanks again for watching NASCAR America Debrief. We'll see you next time.
Here's Burton flipping his pen. Watch this. Hey! Jeff Burton, everyone.
How could I forget?
No love. No love.